Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth,
And I'm Coach Victoria.
and in this video we're going to be talking to you about not judging a book by its cover. So many people are putting their lives out there online, and first of all, you got to be careful with these things because you're having a lot of strangers watching you, knowing a lot of very personal things about your life.
I know, so many of your followers know about the Applebee's story now.
Exactly. And so many other things, and it can lead to dangerous things,
It
honestly.
can, it can.
So you have to be very careful about what you're posting, especially like where you're at and location wise. But you have to remember that some complete stranger is knowing very intimate things about your life. And you always want to consider that some of those people out there may not be mentally healthy or stable.
This is true.
So when I'm online and I see stuff, I want to think that it's authentic. So much stuff is fake. Now it's AI.
Oh
How
my
much?
gosh.
It's overwhelming amount of AI. And I hate those videos that are just clickbait, the recent one that I saw was tons of videos where like the doorbell is like getting attacked, the Ring camera's getting attacked, there's like an animal attacking a bear.
I've seen a lot
bear's
of these,
right
yeah.
Lately there's a bear attacking the
Or a bear,
child
like,
on the
entering the
porch and
home
through the
or-
Ring camera.
yeah.
And so there's tons of stuff like that. I like authentic. And someone submitted this one to me, this video or this short video, and I was wondering, like, is this woman authentic, right? So let's play this first clip here that made me dig a little deeper.
Okay, let's see.
Every time I leave my boyfriend's house, I'm like, why did I do that? I miss him. I'm cooking alone. I could be cooking with him.
Okay.
So the end of the clip, I just kind of wondered, like, is she really authentically sad? Is she really crying, or was it like for the camera? Like, I couldn't tell. So I was like, let me see who this is. Let me look a little bit more. And I came across this clip here where she really opens up a lot about her life and talks about some very serious issues, which I think a lot of you guys can relate with.
Okay, let's see.
Get ready with me while I tell you a little bit more about myself. I feel like a lot of my followers do know, but I also have so many new ones who have no clue. I guess I'm just gonna start from the very beginning. So basically, I originated from Michigan. I lived in a really small trailer park where not many people make it out of. My stepdad was a very bad drug addict, so when majority of my family moved to Tennessee, my mom and family decided to come along. If you have someone on drugs in your life, you know moving is not going to get them off drugs. So that just kind of spiraled into him constantly losing his job, in and out of jail. We moved around countless times. We lived in other trailer parks, we lived in the ghetto, we lived in government housing, in cars, hotels, with family, literally everything you can think of. And at this point, I just had my older brother and my younger sister. It was just us three. And my stepbrother lived with us a lot too. But my mom eventually got accidentally pregnant with my little brother Dylan, which was a huge blessing at the end. But at the time, it was very stressful and we did not live in a good place. And with moving all the time, I moved schools all the time. I've been to like over 30 different schools before my freshman year of high school.
This is something that working in the field we see a lot of, is when a child goes through a lot of transitions, it can really affect their development, it can affect their mental health, and that's because having some level of predictability really does help your development. It really helps your mental health, it helps your sanity to know, okay, we live in this place, I can expect the next day I'm going to be here, I can expect the next day I'm going to be here. There's a sense of safety and security with that. So for children who move around a lot, I know there's many different circumstances under which this happens, but that can be a strain. And even just hearing 30 different schools in such a short amount of time, think about that.
Yeah.
That's being like plucked out of your support network with all your friends and people around you that you connect with and attach to, and then being, dropped into a new setting where you have to make these connections all over again.
Yeah.
So it can be very challenging for a child who's trying to adapt to these different environments quickly. Children are resilient. Don't get me wrong. Children are very resilient, but it can leave an impact.
This is a tremendous amount of things for somebody to go through in their life. And, I worked in this kind of area for a long time. I worked in a very low income area for a long time So I worked with many clients and families that had similar issues. I've worked, with people that lived in trailer parks and families that struggled with all these issues. And, I think it's incredibly courageous of her to share these things. And I think a lot of people would just look at her and think, oh, she's probably some stuck up, pretty girl that, wouldn't give anybody the time of day. And here she is really opening up about some really tough things. And I think it's really brave of her to do this.
Right.
I had a good friend of mine that wound up being in like 25 schools before they graduated high school too. So she had a lot of instability too. And so I know personally people that have lived this kind of life, and it's not easy.
Yeah, it's challenging. So let's see what else happened here.
But when I was 9 years old, we were living with my grandma at the time, and my dad had actually ended his life. I found out later on in life that he had begged for me, like specifically me, to come see him in California where he was living at the time, a month before he ended his life. And of course he wasn't in a good place. My mom was like, I'm not sending my 9-year-old out there. But I actually found this out this year, and it literally broke my heart. There's so much I can't really tell what's all in between. There's so many stories that just pop up and traumatic.
Now she feels guilty.
Yeah.
She feels like had she been there, he wouldn't have done it. Because that's what kids think. When you're a kid, that you feel like, oh, if I had just done this, that wouldn't have happened. And so I'm sure she grew up kind of feeling like some sort of guilt about it.
Yeah. And it's hard because even as an adult reflecting back, you can still feel that guilt of things that you've done as a kid, or things that you haven't done as a kid, or things that you could possibly never be responsible for as a child. And I think that's a very important part in trauma work, is being able to reorient to the present moment, but also giving grace for moments where you weren't responsible for things but felt that responsibility for a lot of things.
And we're talking about a parent that committed suicide too, so that is huge.
Yep. And if you think about it, a 9-year-old is small. Something that Margaret used to always tell me when we worked together is she would say, I want you to imagine whatever age you were when that trauma happened, and think about how small and fragile and delicate you were. Think about how limited resources you had in terms of emotions, in terms of understanding the world.
Yeah.
And that small child dealing with those grandiose issues, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yep.
Events that I don't remember. But I know this time period, me and my mom and my little brother were on the way to Michigan for something, and we got in a car wreck, and my mom got a concussion. And that is what started my mom's drug addiction, is pain pills. After being evicted so many times and knowing that nothing was going to change, when I was 14, I ended up going to live with my boyfriend because his mom was a recovered addict, and she saw my situation and asked me to come live with them, which I really appreciated at the time. So that was the last house I lived in with my whole family, and my mom actually ended up dying. Like, she's here, but like, she died from fentanyl overdose and got revived and everything. So basically my stepdad and my mom were just so deep into drugs, and I knew nothing was going to change. My stepdad had recently got like 3 DUIs in 2 weeks. Also, somewhere in there, my mom got pregnant with Eli when she was on drugs, so that sobered her up for a little bit, but did not last. So for the past 6 years, I have not lived with my family. I didn't even really talk to my mom more than like twice a month. My little brother Eli last year got into their drugs and almost died, which is what got my siblings taken away and put in foster care. If you don't know, they are in foster care. That alone was one of the scariest phone calls in my life. My mom called me and she just told me that I needed to get to the hospital and Eli wasn't breathing. Like, literally just cried. So my mom and stepdad got the kids taken away, obviously. They've been living with my uncle, technically in foster care. My mom really did mess up with the drugs and everything, but she does love her kids, so that is...
I also wonder where she is in the birth order. I wonder how much responsibility she felt for her siblings, taking care of them, and being in a situation where she couldn't. I mean, she was also a teenager when a lot of this is happening, and still a minor, not having rights or being able to really have that ability to care for her siblings in that way, especially if they're under the custody of somebody else, or under the custody of the government at a certain point.
I don't know. Fortunately, there's often a lot of times abuse in those kind of situations. It's scary.
Yeah. I also wonder how this impacted her respect for adults, right? Because when kids see a lot of adults in these kind of situations and their parents failing over and over and over again, it impacts how they view authority. A lot of times kids can have problems with authority because they haven't been able to respect the very people that are supposed to take care of them. So, curious about that.
She does love her kids. What inspired her to get sober? Her and my stepdad both were on court-ordered rehab. And so when my mom was in rehab about 3 months ago in April, 4 months ago, they were going into rehab at different times. So my mom was going to be there a little bit later than my stepdad was. So he got out before her, and 3 days before she got out of rehab, he ended up overdosing on fentanyl and he passed away. It really sucked. My little brother Dylan, the one that a lot of you know I'm very, very close with, he called me mama all growing up. I was literally his mother. My mom was working 18-hour days and we were living in a hotel. That boy was my child. He was the same age as me when I found out my dad had died, so that broke my heart. Guys, it's getting emotional. There's so many other parts to my life, obviously, but that is what my life has been like recently. My mom got sober. I'm very, very proud of her, and I'm living back with her, and hopefully my siblings come home tomorrow.
Wow. So, those kind of families are out there a lot more than you guys would realize.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's incredible that she's able to put that out there and share that much of herself with the world on things that somebody might feel incredibly embarrassed about or ashamed of. People keep family secrets,
Mm-hmm.
and she's trying to, it sounds like, deal with it, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, how many people did she lose here? And
Mm-hmm.
drug addicts and siblings and foster care.
And it's hard because as a kid, when you grow up around addiction, you have no understanding of what that is like and just the physiological grip that addiction can really have on someone. So a lot of times kids who are children of addicts will think to themselves, well, am I not worth my parent getting off of drugs? I'm really glad that her mother has been able to get sober and has been on her recovery journey. I'm really glad about that. A lot of people struggle, even if they have the most reason to get sober in the world, because this is an illness. It's something that can make you physically dependent, depending on the substance, on whatever it is. So it's, a lot of people think, well, it's just a matter of willpower and you got to try really hard. This is something that psychologically can control someone. So I'm glad that she's been able to understand her story more as an adult, be able to share it and articulate it as well as she has. For anybody out there who's dealt with addiction in their family, learning about addiction, becoming more educated in it, and really understanding the challenge that it is, can make a huge difference in how you see yourself and how you see your family. So it's something that I would encourage. And now taking that first video that we saw of her being so attached to her boyfriend,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same boyfriend as she had back then that she moved in with. That's unclear. But you can see how this whole family system blends into how somebody can attach.
Yeah. And so it just feels a lot more authentic when you really hear someone's life story,
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that. There's so much fake stuff out there,
Mm-hmm.
staged things. I hate to say the staged
Oh,
stuff.
It's true.
It's just, you're just like, why am I wasting my time?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you see these same people doing the same pranks or things
Sure.
over and over again. Now, don't get me wrong, if the prank is funny, I can appreciate a good prank. But, these stage things that happen all the time. And I just appreciate somebody who is able to share something so incredibly traumatic and just put themselves out there like that. It's not easy to do. And there's going to be a lot of people that are judgmental towards her and in the comments.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it makes sense to me, just given that first video, that she attached to her boyfriend so much. She was already missing him after having spent so much time with him and going home. She's, back in her routine of cooking. She's just missing him. It makes sense if after, having to move so many times and attach and detach from everybody, to have somebody constant probably means the world to her.
and I hope she's able to break the cycle of the family. There's a high probability that there was abuse that happened in, her parents' generation to her parents, which is often why people turn to drugs, because they were abused or neglected, and very traumatic things often happen to them. And so hopefully she can break that cycle.
Yeah, I hope so.
But what did you guys think? Did you guys think she was authentic from the beginning? I'd like to know what you guys thought, because that was the first thing that I thought is she being authentic? Is this girl being real? Is this woman being real? And then I watched it and I was like, wow, that is a lot. That is a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect, a lot of trauma, a lot to go through.
And I think this is a good reminder that everybody has a story.
Yeah.
You know, the title of this is Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover. We know that many of you have come from dysfunctional families, have experienced a lot of trauma that's affected your relationships, that's affected your world. And so just a reminder to be compassionate to everybody.
Well, leave a comment and let us know what you think. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.